The forgotten and brief Anglo-Zanzibar War. In the 19th century, the Sultanate of Zanzibar in what is now Tanzania consisted of the islands of Zanzibar off the East African coast, and the mainland across the water from them. In 1890, the British and Germans divided Zanzibar amongst themselves. Germany got the mainland, while the British got the islands. That same year, the Sultan of Zanzibar accepted a British protectorate, whose terms included the requirement that his successors had to be pre-approved by the British. When the Sultan died in 1893, the British used that provision to install a puppet replacement, Hamad bin Thawani. He ruled for 3 years, then shortly before noon on August 25, 1896, he died suddenly. It was suspected that his 29-year-old nephew Khalid bin Bargash had poisoned him. Whatever his culpability, Khalid immediately moved into the palace in Zanzibar town, and without British approval as required by the terms of the Protectorate Treaty, he declared himself Sultan. The British preferred a more pliant successor, Hamad bin Muhammad. So they rushed 3 cruisers, 2 gunboats, 150 marines, and 900 African soldiers to Zanzibar town, and gave Khalid an ultimatum to vacate the palace by 9 a.m., August 27, or else. He refused, gathered a force of about 2,800 men, and barricaded himself in the palace. When the ultimatum expired on the 27th, the British ships were ordered to open fire, and they commenced a bombardment at 9:02 a.m. By 9:40 a.m., the palace and the royal harem next door were on fire, the Sultan's flag had been cut down, and the gunfire ceased. A journalist reported that the Sultan had fled at the first shot with all the leading Arabs, who left their slaves and followers to carry on the fighting. But others stated that he stuck around for a bit longer. However long he stayed, the Sultan was not in the palace by the time the British reached it shortly after the bombardment stopped. Khalid, with dozens of his followers, fled to the German consulate, where he sought refuge. By that afternoon, the British had installed their favourite, Hamad bin Muhammad, as Sultan in his place. In the war, which lasted roughly 38 minutes, the British expended about 500 artillery shells, 4,100 machine gun rounds, and 1,000 rifle bullets. The Zanzibaris suffered losses of around 500 men and women killed or wounded, while British casualties consisted of a single petty officer, who was injured aboard a warship. The British sought Khalid's extradition, but the Germans granted him asylum and transported him to German East Africa. He fell into British hands during World War I's East Africa campaign, and was exiled to the Seychelles and then St. Helena. He was eventually released, and returned to East Africa, where he died in 1927.